implementing three core components. Number one, prevention, surveillance, and if you have a species arriving, what is your response, an incursion response? It amounts to what we need to do to prevent the Caribbean environment and its vulnerable economies and the health of our people from negative impacts. Australia and New Zealand, as island states, are just two examples that have seriously committed to biosecurity. In 2009, the Australian government introduced new questions on arrival cards for international travelers to identify high-risk equipment, including down to fishing rods and footwear, because they were interested in controlling what they call didimo, or a type of freshwater algae that was becoming a problem. So, while we have discussed some basic measures here, we talk about fumigation, heat treatment, cold treatment. Here you can see on the top left, your left, U.S. Navy installing rat guards on the lines, packaging of vegetation material with wrapping, and the dog in the lower left picture is actually searching for brown tree snake for the shipments going out to the island of Guam. So while we've discussed these are reactive, if I put it this way. They set out to address particular issues, particular problems. However, what I would like to recommend is a more comprehensive approach. If you know that you have these issues at various levels, invertebrates, that's your insects, which I showed in the beginning. You know you could have a raccoon come on board. You know you could have plants as a problem. It's not likely that you hit all the targets. But if you have a strategy in mind, then that provides a framework where both the shipping sector and your ports officials can have a response mechanism designed to catch as many as possible. And I've taken this as an example from threat analysis from the Australia's New South Wales biosecurity strategy. So instead of simply laying out simple measures here for the cruise and the container industry, I recommend to the Caribbean Shipping Association and other similar bodies that you do an examination of threats through a similar process and establish a comprehensive policy response within the sector. And being proactive would help. In recognition of the social and economic impacts, and that invasive alien species can be vectors of disease or directly cause health problems, and that they can damage infrastructure, recreational facilities, cause agricultural losses, IAS are estimated to cost the European Union at least 12 billion euros per year, and damage costs are continuing to rise. The European Parliament adopted legislation to tackle invasive alien species at the European Union level on 16th of April 2014, just a few weeks ago. The US notes that invasive alien species cost about $120 billion to the economy. In Florida, between 1999 and 2009, federal and state agencies spent $1.4 million to mitigate impact of the Burmese python. This is costing money. And the Caribbean islands don't have much of that. So, again, if the industry is proactive, what you find is that the measures would be in place so that when regulatory bodies like governments start to take matters into hand, the sector is proactive. It shows what it has been doing on its part to play its role in mitigating impacts of invasive alien species. Because we know when government gets on board and legislation gets on the way, it can sometimes be conflict with private sector. So it's good to be proactive and think about what needs to be done. And I just say that in terms of this commentary here on this cartoon, as an invasive species, if an endless appetite, it can decimate ecosystems and send species extinct. The other fish is saying Asian carp, but for us in the Caribbean, we probably say lionfish, right? And then the other fish is saying, no, humans. And I mean, that's the role that we're playing. We're the ones moving the species from one location to the next. We're facilitating this thing. It becomes a problem to us. But really, the species is just taking advantage of what the circumstances that we're putting it in. And I think at this point, this is my last slide. These are masked boobies, by the way, from the island, from Dog Island. Don't ask me why they call them boobies. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. John. I'd like to